people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host, as always, Jeff Stormer. This week I am joined by game designer Fraser Simons for a playtest of his new game, Young at Heart. Young at Heart is designed to emulate sports movies like, well, Young at Heart, as well as Bull Durham and A League of Their Own. Movies about a pitcher at the top of their game battling pride and heart for one last epic game. It is super cool. I think you're going to love it. A link to learn more can be found in the show notes. And without any further ado, let's throw it over to me in the past so he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week my guest is Fraser Simons. Fraser, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thanks for having me.
So, real quick, at the top of the show, why don't you introduce yourself, talk about any work you might want people to be familiar with, any place people might know you from, where they should know you from, and all that sort of good stuff.
Sure. People probably know me most from the Veil RPG that I recently kickstarted about 6 months ago, which is a cyberpunk powered by the Apocalypse game that did pretty well. This game that we're playing now is like a little side project. The Veil is probably where people know me most from, and it should be finalized in about a month. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's the
cool
end of a journey.
That's got to be a good feeling. I've never kickstarted anything, so I don't know. But I imagine that's got to be a good feeling to just be like, it's almost done.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because like, I knew it would be arduous going into it, but I didn't think it would be as difficult as it was. Not to say that people should be discouraged from doing it or anything, but just like all the cogs coming together to make a product or
sure
jarring. Like, you got the layout guy and you've got the art coming together, and then you've got to do editing and even more things depending on what's going on. So there's a lot of other people's timelines and life happening and stuff like that. But thankfully we're well behind the schedule that we gave the backers, so we're not one of those projects.
Good. That's great. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell me about the game that we're playing this week. I am really excited about it.
Yeah, me too. So this is a passion project for me. It's called Young at Heart. It recreates sports drama stories, and it's based specifically on the book For Love of the Game, which got later made into a movie with Kevin Costner with some tweaks for the format. And you can, like, it's a bare bones mechanical game that will let you sort of just riff off each other for whatever kind of story you want. And it's very hackable and tweakable to whatever you want. So after you play it once, you could easily just say, I'm going to do a sports story with a football player, or whatever you want.
Yeah, I read over the rules, and I really like that it captures. I was thinking that exact same thing. It captures sort of the essential beats of a sports movie, but I feel like you could move from sport to sport very easily, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like, let's dive in. I'm ready to go.
Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our three main characters. We've got the best friend, the lover, and the all-important pitcher, which you and I are both going to be personifying and sort of playing out scenes for the duality between pride and heart, which is, quote-unquote, the heart of the story. So basic thing is we need to come up with where was the pitcher born and what is their name. So are we thinking like small town, got into the major leagues thing, or are we thinking, always a city boy, that kind of thing? Or girl even too.
I was leaning towards like small town, Midwestern, very Americana, Field of Dreams-ish, but I also kind of like city boy.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm thinking, actually.
Okay.
What if it is like a city-raised pitcher that then like got moved out to the Midwest?
Sure.
And so kind of like a little bit of a fit, like spent his career as a bit of a fish out of water. You know, maybe has a little bit of that city attitude that doesn't quite mesh with like where he actually spent most of his time.
Okay, cool. So we'll say like born in like New York or something like that, and then had to move.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say born in New York, and I'm gonna type as silently as possible. And how old are they? So this story specifically kind of like bakes in that they're the old guard of the game, you know, like they're the ones that still play for the love of it
Right.
and not like, you know, young kids that are like, I could make $1 million doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we can always leave it a little nebulous, but we could just say like a mid pitching range or something right now, like 30 to 40s or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, like 40s.
Yeah, and that's always something we can define more when we're doing more of the game. So what's their name, you think? Do they have like a city name or do they have a small town name?
Carl Chudley.
Carl Chudley.
I feel like that's a good baseball name, you know?
I think so, yeah.
I feel like you see Chudley on the back of a baseball jersey, like that feels...
Definitely, yeah. That would be something you're walking around in like a locker room and you see Chudley and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, you're gonna know. You're gonna know. All right, that's an old guy baseball name too. So I'm feeling good about Carl Chudley.
Nice, yeah. And what is their primary physical characteristic? So like, you know, the protagonist always has some relatable quality that's usually physical, like typically bright blue eyes or something that makes them stand out physically from everybody else.
I think he's really tall.
Really tall?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What do you think the name of the team that he pitches for? It could be real or it could be non. Doesn't matter. Last time I played it on the Gauntlet, it was the Gauntlet City Kobolds, so it's pretty nebulous.
Let's go with...
Especially since you'd be better at geography for Midwest than me, for sure, in Canada. I'm just like, yep, there's places down there.
Let's go with Minnesota. Well, they'll be the Minnesota... the Minnesota Prairie Dogs.
Prairie Dogs, cool. So, they're at the tail end of their career now. How long have they been playing baseball? Like 15, 20 years kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long and illustrious career. So I'm going to say a solid 20 years.
20 years, cool. And what about them drives a wedge between themselves and the new players on the team?
I think they've got I think he's got a hot streak. Like I think he's got like a temper that I think flares up.
Gotcha.
Like I think he's got that city boy ego or that city boy attitude that I think causes problems.
Yeah.
Because I imagine a lot of his players are like from the Midwest. And so like he just seems kind of surly and mean.
Right.
Because like that's not his background.
Gotcha. Nice. Okay. And then who taught them how to play baseball?
The first thing that jumped into my head was Satan, and I'm not going to go in that direction. So instead I think we'll say like an uncle.
An uncle, okay. Uncle Pete?
Uncle Satan. No. His uncle, like, Uncle Stan.
Stan, okay. Better than Satan, I think.
Yeah.
but close still, weirdly.
Yeah.
In which ways in their life are they still a child at heart other than playing baseball? So a similar thing to that could be like a reckless streak, you know, in their lives.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly what it is.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see him like wanting to kind of like live it up even though it's like a small town, right?
Yeah, and I think he's got a motorcycle for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think he rides it. I'm kind of picturing, even though it's like he's much younger in the movie, but he's kind of got a Maverick from Top Gun thing.
Okay.
Where he like rolls in on a motorcycle to the bar and he makes a big scene out of his entrance and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So they've given baseball everything they've got, but what do they have to neglect to have such an amazing career? Family, friends, lover. One of the other main characters is the lover, so we could definitely have like a thing where they're, together, but it's, he hasn't grown up enough to be that much of a commitment type thing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that he's got a lover, but he kind of sees it as a fling, despite the fact that it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to prioritize when you're the man.
Yeah, when you're Carl Chudley. Living that motorcycle life.
Yep. And I bet his motorcycle on the plate is like Chud 1 or something.
No, it is.
Right?
It's definitely Chud
1. So we'll just say commitment issues. And then we'll jump right to them then. So for the lover, we have a couple more questions, but not as in depth. What's their name and same primary physical characteristic? If it's like a small town, she could be like Sandy or something like that. Or what's another smaller town?
I was thinking like Mary. Wait, no, it can't be Mary Sue. It can't be Mary Sue because that's a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like Sandy. I think Sandy's a very like Americana kind of name.
Sure. And then gender pronouns will go she.
I think she, her, yeah.
And so what career is she successful in?
She is a small time, like a regional diner magnate. Like she owns a chain of diners.
That's awesome. Okay.
And they're all styled after being like down home cuisine, but there's a lot of them and they're all identical.
Gotcha. So she's even like embodying the ideals of this like place that he has like a contention for.
Yeah.
What have they given up in the past or present in order to make up room for this complicated relationship?
I think she had an opportunity to go national.
Okay.
Like the diners there was like somebody approached her with like a national expansion of the brand.
Right.
And she just was not ready to make that commitment at the time. Because it would mean for her it would mean that she would have to spend time away from him. So she gave that up to like be around him, and he did not appreciate it.
Gotcha. And then how serious is this relationship right now?
Right now, I think they're on the outs. I think that it's like I think they're in the middle of a fight, and they're not really talking to each other.
Cool. This will work very well, I think. Last thing is just to add one characteristic for the lover for each person playing in order to complete it. I think she is like got a chip on her shoulder probably then.
Yeah, I think that's what attracts them to each other, is they've both got a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah, they've got the fire. And then what else do you think? She's got a chip on her shoulder and...
She is sunny with friends and a shark at work.
Okay, so... How should we just say like professional?
Yeah, she is like hyper professional when she's on the job. She has that ability. You know that ability when you can walk into it like a corporate environment and just shut it off And you walk out and you're like, hey, everybody, how's everybody doing? And you walk in, you're like, let's get to work.
Yeah.
So she's like ultra professional.
I'm already like the nice thing about these questions in the first place is sort of what happens is both players get a sort of like loose timeline in their head about like, oh, I totally know how these people met and I know what this fight is about, but we're going to be like vying for that narrative control to see what actually happens. So it's interesting to see because we both have interesting forks to take it in the road.
Yeah.
But we don't know which way it's going to go. So that's what makes the game so exciting for me.
No, I'm already seeing that and I'm already really liking it.
So for the best friend, name and primary characteristic again. So do you think this is somebody that like knew them even back when they were born in like the big city, or is this like a newer best friend? And it's important to note that this best friend is also the catcher for the pitcher.
I think that it's a new best friend. I think that it's the guy that shows Carl around.
Okay.
Like he gets to Minnesota and he's like, "Come on, I know like all the best spots. I know how to have fun."
Oh man. So in my head, of course, this is the guy that like introduces him to Sandy and they have like a crush.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Already. And then he just like swoops in or something. But we'll see, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
So what is this person's name? Maybe something like what's like a typical friend zone guy name, like Gary or something?
Oh, I like Gary.
Gary. We don't really need a last name for now, I think.
Gary.
The more names is like
Gary Chisholm.
Harder.
Chisholm, like Chisholm.
Okay.
Or yeah, it's like Chisholm. Gary Chisholm.
Cool. And we'll go with he, him.
Yeah.
And what have they had to sacrifice along the way to support the pitcher?
I think his reputation. Because I think what I think it happened is Gary knows how to have fun. He's a fun guy, but I think Carl kind of brings out the worst in him. Like
he's like the alcohol for Fun Bobby in Friends.
yeah. They just keep they both have that like wild streak, and I think that they both like egg each other on to just keep getting bigger and bigger with it. And I think that causes problems. Gotcha.
Yeah, because like for him, he doesn't have as much social currency, obviously, as a pitcher who, has such a prestigious career kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think it's also something where until Carl got there, like he was in pretty good standing. Like he didn't miss practice. He was never late. Like he had fun. He hit the bars, but he was never like bad. But now, like, he misses practice. He misses a practice here and there. Like, he's late. Gotcha. He gets in some trouble with the cops. Like, it's his standing on the team has taken a hit.
Gotcha. And then, so what do they know about the pitcher that no one else does? This can be a lot of things. Before, I've had people say, like, an injury. I've had people say that he's only, like, effective when they pitch together, like just because of the counts from the catcher is the only thing that really makes him effective because he doesn't read people that well. I've had him say like a dark past sort of things. It's been widely varied.
You know what I think it is? I think I think Carl like beat up a guy real bad in a bar, like a bar fight.
Yeah.
And Gary covered it up.
Took the hit for it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, we were like, the cops came by to like ask about it, and Gary was like, no, we were never there.
Okay. Gotcha. Took the hit for Carl. And then so qualities, so we each need one characteristic for the best friend?
He's...
When he, like, just talks to people in general, is he already, like, pissed off at them? Or is he only usually pissed off at, like, Carl and nobody knows why type deal?
Yeah, I think he has the patience of a saint except for Carl.
Okay.
Like, everybody likes him, and I think that also kind of ties back into his reputation. Like, everybody loves Gary. He's Gary. Everybody loves that guy.
So we'll say, like, patient and, like, likable?
Yeah.
Right? Cool. So now there's two ways of playing this game. There's the guided scene way, and then there's the hardcore mode of freeform play that we're gonna do. So what we're gonna be looking for is to answer any of these 4 questions, and I'm gonna put them in chat. And I think it'd be more fun to, like, not tell the audience what they are.
Yeah.
And just frame and go with them kind of thing, so they don't really know what's going on. But keep in mind that with any of these 4 questions, normally your narrative control is the same as if you were, like, when you're playing the pitcher, you have narrative control, but for these opening scenes, it might not necessarily be the case, because you might want to be answering one of these questions by communicating it through somebody else to the pitcher.
Okay.
So, yeah. Basically, if you have, like, an idea for what one of these would be, then say that you have a scene and then just, like, set it up, and then just, we just sort of work out every scene together to get the best story. And the duality between us isn't until, like, later in the normal scenes, not here yet.
All right.
So, you can see these questions that I put?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. And we can always answer multiple of these questions in a scene, but for each one that we do answer, we're going to roll to start our communal pride in either pride or heart for each one. So if we answer 2 questions in one scene, we'll roll twice.
Okay.
To figure out our dice pools.
Sure. So if I have an answer to a question, should I just start setting up the scene then?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, because I definitely have an answer to the first question.
Okay, great.
So real quick, walk me through, like, the, I guess, mechanics of setting up the scene. Just, like, is it a scene? Is it, like, a flashback? Is it a flash to the side? Is it, like, he's on the mound, like, thinking about these things?
Not yet. These are, like, think of it as, like, if you watched For Love of the Game, these are, like, either the montage moments leading up to the start of the movie, or the opening scenes before he gets to the mound.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So
yeah,
Carl wakes up in a hotel, or he wakes up in his his nice apartment in the city of St. Paul, because that's Minnesota, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he wakes up. Carl wakes up in his really nice, like, St. Paul apartment. And he is alone, and he looks around, and he's real confused by that. He kind of, like, rubs his eyes, and he's like, Sandy, what happened? Are you making breakfast? And, like, we get a few shots of him, like, walking around the apartment holding the blanket like a towel, doing that classic thing.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like, Sandy, where are you? Make me a Bloody Mary. I got a hangover. And he finally gets to the kitchen, and there is a Bloody Mary. There's a Bloody Mary made there.
Oh, ominous.
But there's also a note that's just, like, business meeting or business conference in Duluth. Be back next week.
Okay. Cool.
And he's like, what the? Oh, come on.
Okay. I'm thinking for number 2 then, maybe the Bloody Mary ties into answering the question in that, like, the coach doesn't want him to start. Like, yeah, like, let's say if you're sufficiently, like, answered the first question, let's say he, like, goes over to, like, a mirror and puts his hand on his face and kind of, like, drags it down, like, hangover people do. And then, like, kind of has, like, a flashback thing to the coach, like, the skipper of the team, who's got, like, a handlebar mustache, and he's, like, super pissed and stuff, right? And he's like, how the hell am I supposed to start you when you're, like, always drunk, right?
Yeah.
And kind of, like, shakes him and tosses him onto the bench, and he's like, look how far you've fallen, Carl. That kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then do you have... I think that's sufficient for number 2, probably, hey?
Yeah, and that, yeah. So I think I think that we flash back to him and he's looking in the mirror, and, like, we get a few quick shots of him, like, going about his day, or, like, going about his morning, like he's standing in the shower with a hand on the wall because he can't quite stand upright, and he's like, walks outside, and he stands outside for a second, and he walks back inside, and he walks back outside with big, thick sunglasses on.
Aviators or something?
Yeah, because he's just like, it's bright out.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's real late in the morning, too. Like, but he's walking, and, like, maybe, like, a paper lands on his feet, and, like, the front page of the sport, he opens it up to the sports section, and the front page of it is, like, paparazzi photos of him, like, shoving a camera out of his face. And so it's like...
What's the headline?
I think it's...
Maybe it's like a Johnny Cash reference with, like, you can't... Like, pitcher can't walk no line anymore or something like that.
It's like, it's like walk the... It's like walk the line, and it's... Ooh, I know exactly what it is. You're right. It is walk the line, and it's a picture of him taking a sobriety test as he was driving, like... got pulled over.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that he's gotta, like... I think he sees this, and it's clearly... He's not fazed by it, so it's clearly not the first time that he's seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of why he's gotta figure out, like... Is this it? He's like, am I burned out?
Totally. Okay, sweet. And then... Yeah, sweet. Okay, and then I think maybe he gets, like, a phone call, and it's what did we say? It's Gary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's already mad at him because he's like, "How come you're not at the game or at practice, right? Like, how come you're not warming up?"
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Practice started 25 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he, like, throws. Maybe the whole time he had, like, that Bloody Mary in his, like, hand, and he, like, drops it and it shatters, and then the camera kind of goes fuzzy, and then it comes back, and he's like, the only reason that he is starting kind of thing is that, like, the skippers finally, like, showed up sober, but it's only because he didn't have the presence of mind to start drinking that Bloody Mary in the first place.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He's finally sober, so he's gonna start, and he starts, like, cracking fastballs to the best friend there, and, like, it's the typical thing where it sounds like a lot more fast than it is in real life.
Yeah.
With, like, For Love of the Game, where it sounds like it's like a freaking bullet hitting the glove kind of thing, because he's super pissed about, one, not getting to drink, and two, his lover being out of town and everything, right?
Yeah.
So she's gone. He's not in his happy stupor. And the skipper's probably like, you guys haven't been hitting for a long time. Why don't you just let the new guy pitch? He's eager and he's been hitting real well. And I think we, like, look at the skipper and we're like, I've never asked you for anything. But today, Gary catches for me. I'll never ask you any other time, but today Gary Gary pitches for me kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think he does. I think he does that. I think he's like, look, I didn't want to bring this up, but you owe me a favor, and he's got some like real obscure and minor thing that he did for the skipper like once 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's like, I gave your kid a ride to graduation 2 years ago. I never asked for that favor back.
Or maybe he like had to talk to his kid's school.
Yeah.
Or something, right? And be like, if you want to be a baseball star, you just got to give 110%.
And don't do drugs. And we get a shot of him being like, and stay off of drugs and alcohol. And he's behind the aviators like 5 o'clock shadow. And he's like, yeah.
Totally.
So yeah, I think he's pulling every trick in the book to get the skipper. And I think probably the skipper agrees, and as they're going out, he like puts a hand on Gary's shoulder and he's like, you keep his ass in line.
Yeah, totally. Sweet. Okay, so I think we'll transition there to normal scenes.
Cool.
Where we're going to go out to the mound and start flashing back, but we need to generate our pools.
Okay.
So for each of those questions, we're going to take a stance on either we want pride or heart for it, and then we're going to roll against each other to see what our pools are.
Okay.
So for why and how did your lover tell you they were leaving tonight and where are they going? Pride or heart for you?
I'm going to say that's probably pride for me, because like I think that's leading him to like shut the world out a little bit.
Totally.
So I think that's pride.
Okay, so you roll a d6 and I'm going to roll a d6 against you for heart, and whoever wins gets that resource.
Okay.
So I got a 4.
I also got a 4.
Oh, and you got a 4. Yeah, so we actually both, when we tie, we both get the resource.
Okay.
So it's good. So just drag your die out over to your pride pool thing.
Cool.
And then for the next one, why haven't you started in a baseball game for a while, and why can't you pitch an entire game anymore? Where we decided he was a drunkard. I'm going to say also... probably pride too. I think that's a thing rooted not in heart.
Yeah, I don't think that's
drunk.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm gonna go for pride, and you're gonna be heart on this one. I got a 3.
I got a 4.
4. So heart wins it.
Let's drag that over.
So you can take it to heart, and for why do you have to decide whether or not to retire at the end of this game? Burned out? I don't know. Is that a heart thing?
I think so. I think he has to decide if he still loves. I think it's rooted in, do I still love the game, or like have I lost it? So I think that's heart. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. So you roll for heart. I'll roll for pride.
I got a 3.
And I got a 4.
All right.
And finally, what was the last one?
Here, because I was rolling for heart last time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Why do you need your best friend catching for you? That sounds kind of hard.
I think so, yeah, because I think it's him, it's rooted in their friend, for him it was rooted there in their friendship, so yeah.
Yeah, and he's thinking like, this is me deciding on it too, right? So, yeah. Okay, so I'll be pride and you'll be heart?
Sounds good.
Okay. What did I get? 5. Oh, both.
All right.
We're doing well. There we go. Okay, so now we decide, normally, like in guided scenes, we kind of like divide ourselves into teams, but in freeform mode, we usually just frame a scene and then go to a point in the fiction where it could go either way, and then we just sort of choose which way we think have like the best idea kind of thing and which way we want to go, and then we just roll at that time.
Okay.
So same thing. And another thing is the normal scenes are taking place as flashback sequences in order to like we're gonna keep flashing back until we've completely decided on what we're gonna do about the lover and what we're gonna do about retiring or not, and we're just gonna keep doing scenes until we're just good with the answer that we have, and then we're done.
Okay.
And also, usually it helps to make it a linear timeline. So we'll start at like, when I was a boy and started learning to play baseball to like now, that kind of stuff. So, with that in mind, do you have a thing in mind for young, untainted, Carl?
I do,
Chudley?
yeah. I think we get a flashback. He's walking to the mound. We get a flashback of young Carl, and he's still in New York. Like, he's still in the city. He is he's not at a baseball game. I think that's important. I think he's with Uncle Stan, but he's watching at a bar.
Okay.
And I think Uncle Stan is like regaling him with sports stories, and I almost think that's how he like teaches him, So I think we're being like, yeah, see that's Willie Mays, and he like tells this really like long story about who Willie Mays is, and like all about all about Willie. He's just talking about Willie Mays, and Carl's just watching the tiny little TV in the bar, like, okay. And like drinks are like going by him.
Oh, totally, yeah. So it sort of like seeded his alcoholism too, because like he's like both watching his dad's heroes while his dad is like doing that thing where he like gets drunk all the time anyway, and it's a completely acceptable and normal thing that men do.
Yeah. He's like watching that. He's watching both of these things, and so like they're kind of tied together.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and then we're guiding it to the actions of the pitcher going either like he's going to act in a prideful way or act in a heartful way. So that could be something like him trying to bond with his dad in the moment.
Yeah.
Or like,
I think it's,
or like spurning it or something like that.
I think he's like bonding with his uncle, and they're bonding over different aspects of it. Like, Uncle Stan is clearly into baseball as a social thing, but Carl is just glued to the screen and like watching them play.
Gotcha. Okay. So, do you want him to act in a heartful way or a prideful way? I'm getting heart, right?
I'm getting heart. Yeah, this is sort of him. Yeah. This is sort of the moment that he realized that he wanted to do baseball.
Cool. Okay, so if you basically at this point we roll, and if you succeed, then you get narrative control from this point going forward to continue, and if not, then I get narrative control, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you like win. It just means that the way in which you thought the scene would proceed in a heartful way might not happen, and it'll be more of like a pride thing.
Sure, yeah.
So let's roll dice.
Okay.
I got a 5.
I got a 4.
You got a 4. So it'll end up being a prideful thing. So I think it's still like a bonding thing, but I think that he wants to, I think he tells Stan that this doesn't look so hard. I could be better than like any of these guys, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I couldn't remember. Did you say that are we watching it with Uncle Stan and our dad? Or
yeah. Let's
just Uncle Stan.
Yeah, they're both there. I think it's like it's all of the guys in that neighborhood. Like, it's one of those old. I'm picturing like a 70s, almost like a Will Eisner tenement neighborhood, where it's like it's just everybody in the neighborhood is gathered around this bar with this tiny TV, And this is how they
Cool.
watch baseball. And this is also how they like interact as a group.
Okay, so let's say instead of it being like the heartful moment where he's like bonding with everybody, instead he's like this. I'm gonna be a better pitcher than this guy by a mile, and I'm gonna show you that I'm better than anyone.
Yeah. And I bet that like. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, and I bet that him saying that like is real unpopular.
Yeah, well, totally. Yeah. Especially like New York, and they're probably watching like the Mets, and you're like, I'm going to be better than the Mets.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you're a foolish little kid, you know. Okay, so let's pop out of that flashback, and then I completely forgot to make our talent pool here, but our talent is our resource. That's just like our God-given talent with our arm. And we're going to spend that resource at the end of each scene until it gets to the end. And at the end of it, there's sort of like a special question that we have to answer with a scene. And then we start actually spending these resources in order to keep pitching and like making it through the game.
Cool.
So let's see. Ooh, I know. Okay, so let's say it's like, it'll say like 1 month later or something, and he's got like a striped shirt on and like Converse shoes or whatever, and he's like pitching on the mound, and he's actually like doing pretty good type deal. Like it's not whistling fastballs or anything, but you know, he's doing okay. And then I think his mom comes up, and she's like got really strong features and like probably like brown hair and like green eyes, and it's probably like a I don't know if I want to go with the cliche that if the dad's drinking it's like an Irish thing going on, but I don't know, we'll say that she's got like, you know, she's a strong mother, and she walks up and she's like, it's time to go. And we pan across, and it's like one of those old Volvos from like back in the day or whatever, and they're getting ready to like pack up to go move away to that small town, right? And I think I want to go with just to be the black sheep, I'm going to go with pride and say like he ignores her and like keeps pitching is my thing, and then we'll see if that happens. We'll roll and see, and if not, then you get narrative control, and it'll be a heart thing. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
I got a 5.
And I got a 1, so you definitely would.
So I think he ignores her at first, and he just keeps pitching, and he's got one of those buckets of baseballs, and he's just grabbing them and pitching them at a wall, right? Like he's just pitching them at a wall, and at first his mom is like yelling at him. She's like, "Get in the car, we gotta go." We were supposed to leave an hour ago. And at first she's giving him a hard time, but then she kind of stops and just starts watching him throw. And like as he's throwing, his throws are getting better, and she's just watching, and like he's throwing harder and faster, and we start hearing that like bullet sound effect. Cool. And she's like, "You got a hell of an arm, kid. You could be in the majors one day." And like he looks at his arm, and that's kind of the thing that gets him to like go in the car. He kind of like, we get a road montage of like driving across country, and a lot of it is him just like looking at his arm and like sitting there smiling and thinking about that. Cool. And maybe once he just whispers like, "Yeah, I'm going to be in the majors one day." And then we flash back to him taking the mound. Cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so then it's I just deleted another talent, so you're good to go. Also, everything else that's happening in the stadium is window dressing for us. The endgame mechanics take care of what the score and stuff finally is, but we can work in like who's batting, if they land a hit, everything except if they actually get on base at all is just window dressing for all of this. Or flavor, I should say, instead of window dressing.
Sure. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, and now it still moves back and forth like it did. So since I started that scene, even though you won the last one, it's still your turn to do the next scene.
So I think we get him, like, he takes the plate and he locks eyes with the guy at bat, and maybe the guy at bat has, like, a taped up nose and has some bruises and looks real salty. Right. And is, like, not happy with Carl and looks like he's just about to, like, take that bat to his face. And he looks at him and he kind of smirks, and then he looks at Gary, and Gary wants to be mad at him, but he's kind of smirking too. Yeah. And we flash back to a younger Gary is at the catch, like, is catching for, like, tryouts. Mm-hmm. And we see, like, 3 or 4 guys, like, throw, and Gary's like, this guy's fine. He's not great. And, like, the skipper is, like, taking in his advice, because, you know, everybody loves Gary. So he's like, all right, is he good? And he's like, nah, this isn't the guy. Mm-hmm. And I think then we see a young Carl, like, doing his tryout on base. And I think that's going to be a heart roll for me.
Okay. So, like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's do that then, and I think I got something for pride if this is my thing.
I got a 2.
I got a 5.
All right.
So let's say I think what I'm thinking with him is that, like, if it's just him, it's always, like, for him, but if there's other people judging him, he's got, like, that reckless streak going on, right? So I think he nails the first couple pitches, and, like, the guy's like, damn, like, kind of his arm hurts a little, whatever, and the radar says, like, 110 or whatever, right? Something crazy. And then the guy, like, I think it's so heated, though, and maybe his control is still yet to be refined yet, that, like, the batter's, like, he catches, like, he's taken, like, a break or something, and he catches the batter saying, like, sure, but, like, anyone can pitch a fastball. This kid's, like, all over the place. And then they're like, well, let's see a couple more. And then it's like that same guy that we're pitching against now in the future. And we just, like, beat him right in the helmet. And the guy, like, goes down, and he's like, he looks at the scouts or whatever and does that gross, like, spit out stuff from Chew. And he's like, I can put the ball anywhere I want.
And yeah, I think that's pretty great. No, I'm into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think we'll like come back to the future, and the transition, I bet, is that the ball is, like, going straight for the guy's face again. Yeah. But the guy moves, like, out of the way, like, falls or whatever. And like the catcher reaches up and nabs it and kind of smiles.
Yeah, I think we get a one last flashback in that scene. The ball flies at the guy in the present. He gets out of the way. Gary catches it, and we flash back to young Gary, and the place is dead silent. Everybody's kind of like angry and upset, and Gary just starts, like, guffawing. And he just laughs so hard. Yeah. And we flash back, and Gary's not laughing, but we see that little tiny smile that you know that he, like, wants to laugh.
Totally. That's awesome. And then I just deleted another talent. So let's say, let's mix it up a little bit. I think we still have a little bit of work to do to refine his, like, love of the game, because he's got that chip on his shoulder. But I've had the idea of him meeting Sandy for like ever.
Yeah,
now.
I've really wanted
So
to
I wanna
explore
do
that. So yeah, like let's dig into that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking we like flash forward a few years, and after a game that they win or whatever, maybe there's like that thing where there's like the newspapers twirling on the
Yep.
camera with like different headlines, and it's like young star coming up fast and all this stuff, but it's also mired by like, young star crashes
Right.
car and like, all these like different things, so you're not sure where he's actually going in life yet. And it'll have him like dating models, and it'll like never last and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think we probably
And
see
then-
like it starts out with like newspaper sports sections, and then we go through like a few different versions of ESPN. Like we get that really early one, and like just to show like the passage of time, like their suits
Yeah,
are changing and stuff. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. And then I think it like breaks with the chime of one of those old diner bells, like the ding 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 thing. And Gary is like, you got to meet this girl. She's like a stunner, right? And he's like, what do you know? I date models, kind of thing, right? And he's like, well, the other thing they got here is the best slice of whatever pie Minnesota has. Probably, I'll just say like blueberry.
Yeah, it's the
or
best
something,
blueberry
'cause
pie
it
you'll ever
survives in
find.
the frost. Yeah. So he like sits down, and I don't think Sandy's working just yet, but he orders like the blueberry pie, and they're just like shooting the shit. And then when it actually comes, he expects it to be that same waitress, but it's Sandy. And he like wakes up and he's like, what took you so long? But it gets like cut off because, we got the movie star presence going on. And maybe she says something like, I don't know, like hold your horses, cowboy, or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
like she shoots right back at him. Like he mouths off and she mouths off right back.
Yeah. And then like when she goes to go get the coffee mug or something, he's got like that little like smile thing. And I think this would be a good place to roll, because he could either really like go heartful, and that could be like maybe how they actually
Right.
met, or it could be a pride thing and he totally like turns her off and he's gonna have to woo her
Yeah.
down like in the future,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I'm going for I always go for the underdog thing, so I'm gonna go
right.
pride. And
I'll
it's
roll for
like
heart.
and he's
I got a
Yeah.
6.
Oh well, I got a 3.
All right.
Yeah. So what does he say?
I think that he's like, what took you so long? And she's like, greatness takes time. And he kind of like, he stops because he's like a wonderkind at this point. So he's kind of not used to people like firing back. So
Right,
like he
right.
kind of stops and smiles, and we get a shot of him like digging into the pie with a fork, and he's not taking his eyes off her as he eats it. And it's a little bit it's a thing that would be creepy if it was in real life, but it's a sports movie, so it looks not as creepy. And then we
Right,
flash to
right.
them like on a like laughing on a date some months later. Like we see that they've like
Right.
really hit it off, because they both kind of have that smart mouth, and they kind of respect that about each other, and they're attracted to that in one another.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I like that. So I'm gonna delete the talent. Do you have like a what brings it out of the flashback to the future transition thing in mind?
I don't. If you have anything in mind.
It could be even like he thinks he sees her
Oh,
in the crowd
yeah.
when like people are shouting, right? And then he like looks again and it's
Yeah.
not her.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so like his face really narrows, and he starts to squeeze that ball like he's just gonna like crush this dude's face with a fastball.
Right.
And then we flash back to a few years after that. And we see like another ESPN montage, and we start to get in, like, we start to see that passage of time. The graphics start to get a little more polished, and he's on like a super hot streak. Like, he is more focused and better than he's ever been. Like, he's on top of his game. He's on top of the world. Like, he's making Sports Illustrated covers, and we maybe see a Wheaties box. It's like all that good stuff. Right. And then after all of that, we start to get a few more, like, oh, he got into a bar fight. Like, he spent a night in jail.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah. But we see a good long period where he is just on top. And I think that we cut to, like, we flash back. As he's squeezing that ball, we flash back to him, like, sitting in a chair as maybe Gary and Sandy are, like, yelling at him to be like, get your shit in order.
Right.
They're like, what are you doing? You're backsliding. You're better than this. And I think that's where I think the role is whether he, like, turns away or, like, he lets them help him.
Okay. That's awesome, yeah. So it's like intervention time. So what do you want to be?
I'm going to go for Heart. I like Heart.
Okay. I got a 2. Wow, you're on a... Heart is winning this time.
Yeah. I think that he, like, kisses Sandy and he shakes Gary's hand. And when he shakes Gary's hand, we see, like, a Sports Illustrated cover of the two of them. And it's like the Minnesota Prairie Dogs dynamic duo.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, who let the dogs out? And it's the two of them, like, putting fists up. And, like, they are just the team, you know? They're the duo. Like, everybody's on notice.
So he starts listening to them both in life, but especially on the mound, and he's better for it too, right?
And, like, that's really kind of where I think his love of the game is like, when he focuses, when he's not sort of succumbing to his demons, like, he's just unstoppable. And I think that Gary brings out, in the same way that he brings out the worst of him, like, maybe we get a few, maybe we see, like, a few of these covers and a few more, like, maybe a Who Let the Dogs Out cover, and it's them both at a bar. And we see that they're, like, inseparable, but also, like, that means that they're hitting bars together and stuff. But, like, when they're on their game, they're unbeatable. And we flash back. Okay. He's squeezing that ball, and we flash back. We see Gary throw a number 1, and he stops in his tracks, and he's like, all right. And that's our transition back.
Cool. Okay. So that's the last talent, which means when that happens, instead of doing a normal scene, we answer a question that I'm looking at now. What takes you out of your memories? Okay, yeah. So this is like... Okay, yeah. Well, instead of reading it out, I'll just do the scene. I think that his dad dies. Yeah. Right? And we have, like, the procession coming, and it's like a top-down scene with the water pouring down, and he's looking just like crap, and Sandy's looking at him kind of like, oh, this could be, like, the thing that puts him back in the backslide thing, right? So he carries it in, and he gives words at the funeral and stuff, and when everybody's, like, shaking hands and all that stuff, there's, like, one of those little TVs in it that's on, and it's a replay of that same game that they played when he was saying he was better than the Mets, right? And I think the role is going to be either Heart or Pride, and I think Heart is maybe he, like, goes for Sandy, and Pride is maybe he just, like, starts going out there and starts, like, pitching against a tree or something like that, right? we'll see. Which one, like, which one do you have a clearer picture of, and which one do you
I think I have a clear picture of Pride here.
Okay. Let's roll and I'll be
Okay.
Heart then. 4. for
2
Heart.
Pride.
2. Alrighty. So, yeah, I think for whatever reason, since it's a sports movie, he has, like, a baseball on him. Oh, you know what? It's the baseball that he first was playing with at that field where his mom told him to come along, and he puts it, like, on the coffin, right? And there's, like, this moment where he's looking like he might, like, take it and go outside and, you know, like, wail on it and be, like, super pissed off. But Sandy, like, walks in and gives him, like, you know, that look that people that have been together forever give each other, like, don't do it kind of thing. And he like grabs the ball and starts walking out, but then it's inevitably, you know, that's just the twist in the movie where he like turns to her instead and they start kissing. And then, like, I think when it flashes back to the main thing is he comes out of that gripping the ball like he was with her when he was kissing her, and he like starts moving his arm around and like stroking it and stuff, like it really hurts and stuff. But I think he's like clutching at that moment in order to like keep throwing the ball.
Yeah,
kind of
for
thing.
sure.
So from now on, we'll have to consume a Pride and a Heart each to keep framing scenes. But our main goal is to like kind of wrap up now, kind of thing.
Sure. So I think that the next scene is going to be, I'm going to say it's a heart scene. So I'm going to spend one of these heart, right? Or do we?
Oh no! At the end of the scene, at the end, yeah. So everything's normal except at the end of the scene, we'll get rid of a Pride and a Heart.
Okay. So yeah. I think, like, he's standing there. He locks eyes with Gary, and we flash back to like an epic bender. Like, he kisses Sandy, like they make up, but the second he sees Gary, like all bets are off. Like Gary is there to provide a much different cathartic experience than, and so
Gary's way of getting over things is to get plastered.
So we get like an epic bender, and we see like the mugshot where they both get a mugshot, and maybe this is when he does the maybe this is when he beats a guy up. Like somebody makes a comment about his pitching, and he just starts wailing, and Gary's got to pull him off, and that's when Gary lies for him, and he's like, "No, we were never even there. I don't know what you're talking about," because he knows that he's hurting.
So if you're looking for a heart, if you want a suggestion, you could be like, it could be the aftermath of that whole thing that you just said, except they're in jail and Sandy's there to bail him out if he like is willing to, you know, say the things or not kind of thing, right? Because that would be definitely
I like that. Let's go with that. That's really good.
Okay. And which one do you want to be?
I'm going to be Pride for this one.
Okay.
I got a 3.
And I got a 4. So Heart, this will be good. So I think what ends up happening, right, is that, so this is where the divide between Gary and Carl happens completely, because she's admonishing Gary completely and saying, like, you know how easy it is for him to, like, slide back, and his dad just died. And I think she's also thinking, like, you just sort of, like, gave a really shitty memory for me right after I just had this really nice one with him too, right? So she's, like, taking it out on him. And she's like, I'll get you out of here, Carl, but, like, from now on, if you want to be with me, you're going to have to, like, not see each other because you guys are bad.
You're bad for each other,
kind of thing, right? Yeah. And, like, the jail cell, like, clangs, and we get a picture of Gary's face looking like super hurt, and then it turns to like anger, and it superimposes on to the pitcher's face, Carl, in future right now with that same moment of anger on his face as he just like whips a like fastball.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna consume heart and pride. Let's see. So, so we're deciding what to do, if we're gonna go after the lover and if we're gonna retire. Let's each take like responsibility for one of those things. What one do you want to be? Are you more interested in finding like basically at the end of this game, we're going to be rolling to see if we succeed at doing each of these things. Anyway, so if we both have it in mind, from now on, it might be easier.
Sure. So it's retirement. What was the other one?
Going like what to do about our lover, like let her go.
I think I'm feeling that one.
Okay, cool. So I'll be whether or not we retire, and that will be rooted in the game. Which, you know what? I think I have a clear answer to that just from what's happening with the pitches right now. You know, like I think that love of the game is sort of like growing.
I think definitely,
right? Yeah. So, do we need another scene to figure out what's going on with the lover?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, why don't you take that then?
I think this is maybe the moment that maybe they're having like an argument. They're having an argument because like he went out drinking again, and like he's
with Gary.
Yeah, the two of them hit a bar again, and it's a while later. Like he was on his best behavior for a while, but like then they went out again. They got blitzed. She's like yelling at him, and I think this is the moment when she's like, I could have gone national, and I didn't for you. I needed to be here to make sure that like I could take care of you, and I think that the role is whether or not he like appreciates that, and like you're
your own woman, you could do what you want. Like, why put that on me, kind of thing. Sure. Which one do you want to be?
I'll be Heart for this one. I got 2.
Okay. 2, 6. Oh man, we're gonna be an asshole. Get ready for it. Okay. So, like it won't be an asshole thing, but I think he'll stop talking when she says that and place his like hands on her shoulders and her head's sort of like bent. And she's like super angry and like shaking, so he like holds her, and then he like whispers in her ear though, like, I never asked you to give up like anything for me, and it's this very like he's saying it to believe it, but he knows it's not true.
He knows that he asked her to do it, even if he didn't like literally ask her.
Exactly, but the pride thing is he can't admit it, so that's what he whispers instead of it.
And maybe she like pushes him away, and she's like, "Fine, then I'm gonna go. If that's the case, I'm gonna go do my job." And she like walks out.
Oh yeah, that could be bringing us up to time now then. Like maybe that was last night. And then that's why there's like the Bloody Mary, right? She's like, that's what you actually want. So here's your Bloody Mary and I'm gone.
Oh, I love that.
Thing, right? Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so if we're both ready, then what happens is it goes to the final pitch of the game. And what we do is we spend the dice on moments that we want to be true in the final scene, leading from like the scoreboard, who's batting, if they hit, if the people in the infield get it or not, like all of those things. We're just spending all this dice on it, but we're leaving it in pride or heart because we'll be rolling it after as well. So, and we need to consume the last ones for that scene. There we go. So, basically we're just trying to make an epic scene, oh man, it could be either like a perfect game that we're going for. It could be, it could be anything.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think this is the pitch that'll determine if he's throwing a perfect game or not.
Okay, perfect. So, For the first moment, then maybe let's have that. I want to have his realization on his face that he did ask her to do all of that stuff, and that's the first die. And then what do you want after that?
I think after that, I want him to look Gary in the eyes, and like his eyes narrow, and Gary's eyes narrow, and Gary smiles because he sees that Carl gets it.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. I think that like he has like this. Ooh, yeah. I think we see that it's that same guy that we like tried to bean in the head, so that it's gonna sort of like take a better pitch than normal to win, kind of thing. It won't be like a normal pitch.
I think the next thing is he was on the Prairie Dogs for a while, and went free agent and traded himself to like get a bigger contract.
Sweet.
So he's real. He's a real heel.
Okay. So I think we're gonna like, we're gonna throw like the fastest pitch that we ever threw, even from like when we were younger, right? Like it'll be like 115 somehow, even though it's like 20 years later, kind of thing. And I think like, so it'll like leave. Like my moment will be it leaving the glove, and then the camera panning to show like 115 miles per hour kind of thing.
The next moment is he pitches it, and it is he pitches it and it's a strike, I think it's a strike.
When it's a strike, maybe that's when we look at the board and we see like the camera slowly pans to 0 everything, and he notices it's like the perfect game as well.
And I think the next thing is the commentator. He's never thrown a perfect game before. He's never done this. This is never this will be a first in his illustrious Hall of Fame worthy career.
Maybe. Oh. Yeah, for the third one, then, I think, we have 3 more for this next one. I think all the fans at Yankee Stadium who are notoriously huge hecklers and stuff actually start clapping and, say, I gotta give it to you.
So then is that... Oh, man, that's definitely the second one, is that they're in New York. So, it's the Prairie Dogs and the Yankees, and he traded himself to the Yankees. Or the Mets. Yeah, I think it's gotta be the Mets, because he was watching the Mets earlier.
Oh, yeah, right. Because
he's also and he had never won over that crowd before. Like when he said he was going to be great before, they brushed him off. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Last moment, should we make it that the mom is there?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so we'll say he scans the crowd as all the people are swarming him, his teammates and stuff like that. And they're all shaking him and stuff, but he only sees his mother maybe.
Yeah, I like that.
In the crowd kind of thing.
That's great.
And then we have 2 final scenes, and it's just seeing if we get the last things that we want.
Okay.
So for heart, you don't even have to roll because we have 6. So it's you rolled a crit already, basically, because you can't really, yeah. So you can just describe the heart scene.
Okay.
Which is, whatever you had in mind for heart.
I think the heart scene is he throws a pitch. Okay, tell me if this is too far.
Okay.
I think he throws the pitch and we cut to a TV screen.
Okay.
And Sandy is watching.
Oh.
And the pitch goes, and she's just like, "You glorious son of a bitch."
Okay. Cool.
I think that's the heart scene, is that she is watching this and she sees that he has found himself.
Okay. Awesome. So we don't know if they get back.
We don't know if they get back together, but she sees that that this is a changing moment for him.
Right, right. Okay. And then let's say that for Pride, then I think he he is going to keep playing, but instead he puts in for a transfer later on for wherever she was supposed to go for that job of hers.
Yeah.
And he like already puts in like a transfer for there, and we see it laying on their kitchen table just like the Bloody Mary was, except that's there, the transfer things, and then so it just fades out maybe.
Yeah, the last shot we see is her walking into the apartment.
Yeah.
Like from this conference, and that's on the table, is like transferred to like Washington or whatever.
Yeah, and then we just don't know what happens after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's game, right?
Yeah, and then it just fades to black and it says young at heart.
That's great. I love that game. That was fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I love it, and it's nice because all you have to really do is change up those 4 questions.
Yeah.
And make whatever sport or whatever you want, right? Like all it is really priming the dramatic stuff at the beginning, and then just exploring it until you know what you want the ending to be, and then see about getting that ending.
God, what a good game.
So yeah, it's nice and light, but I think it does what it needs to do. And I also find that like I like the idea of the duality between pride and heart, like being like you really need both of those to have good scenes, even though one seems better than the other.
For sure, yeah. No, I really I loved it. It was awesome. Fraser, thank you so much for coming on Party of One. This was great.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks.
So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find your work online?
Best place to find me is Google+. That's where all the indie game designers are. Surprisingly enough, we're in a dead
One day I will understand Google+. One day.
Yeah. And you can just find me under Fraser Simons. I'm also on Twitter at Fraser Simons. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on Party of One. I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me.
Thanks, Fast Me. And thanks again to Fraser for coming onto the show. That was awesome. I loved it. That game is so good at capturing that specific sports movie aesthetic. Gosh, it's really great and you should check it out. A link to the game can be found in the show notes. Also, be sure to follow Fraser on Google+, and on Twitter at Fraser Simons. Then follow us on Twitter at Party of One Pod, and like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. If you want to hear more from me, consider checking out All My Fantasy Children, the podcast where Aaron Catano and I take your listener prompts and turn them into lovable, living, breathing role-playing game characters. We released not one but 2 new episodes this week for you, one featuring Mr. Jeans, a professional wrestling managing mushroom man, and the other featuring Swiftwind and the Messenger Sword. A superheroic tale about a mail carrier and their idealistic, intelligent sword. They're both pretty cool. You should check them out. A link can be found in the show notes. If you really enjoyed Party of One, consider backing us on Patreon to help pay for hosting fees, new equipment, and so forth. We just refigured some of the Patreon goals, so basically everybody at every backer level gets a little bit more. So check it out. Backers at $5 up get access to every upcoming episode of Party of One as soon as it is recorded. Backers at $15 and up get to play a game with me on their birthday. It's all pretty cool. Party of One is produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, please email partyofonepodcast@gmail.com with advertising in the subject line. That's it for me. Until next time, thanks for listening, and party on! Never gonna die.